I now get the honor to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to Mark Ladendorf. So Mark, there's going to be a lot of people talking about you, so you get to stay there for now, but you're going to have to come back or come up soon. It is a special honor for me to be able to present this award to Mark, though, because Mark is one of the main reasons I'm standing here right now. You mentored me very early on and guided me through this process, and I really appreciate everything that you've done, not just for me, but for all of ITLA and the state of Indiana. So thank you, Mark. Mark was nominated for this award by Jim McDonald, Betsy Green, Tom Hamer, Steve Langer, Frank Julian, Fred Schultz, Dan Pfeiffer, and Dan Ladendorf. So as you can tell by just that list of individuals, very well respected within our organization and throughout the state. At this time, I would like to invite Dan Ladendorf and Lance Ladendorf to the stage so that they can tell us a little bit about Mark.
You can pop it. Okay. Here you go. I sense a lot of apprehension in the room because it sounds like you're going to hear from 3 Ladendorfs and you're hoping that you're going to be back in the seminar by 1:30, right?
Good luck.
Good luck. My intention right now is not to recap Mark's legal career and tell you about all his achievements and successes. I'll just start out by saying that his legal career started in 1980 when he was admitted to the bar. And it started out in a fairly modest office building at 2220 North Meridian Street with a fellow by the name of Buddy Yosha, who is actually with us today as well. And he practiced there for 17 years with Buddy and a few other names that came and went from the title of the firm over the course of those 17 years. And in 1997, he went out on his own, started a firm, and I joined him in 2000, and for 24 years, we've been practicing law about 20 feet from each other. So my goal today is to offer you some perspective as the younger brother that might give you some insight into our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. So on the screen, you'll see there's a family photo. So I'm the little guy there on the right who's waving to you, because I guess I've always been friendly. Our little sister there in the middle. And then our brother Mick, who's actually here, sitting over there next to Mark. And then the big guy, that's not our dad, that's actually Mark. He's 16 years old in that photo, and well, you can see he's kind of tall. I've been his younger brother for 63 years now, and back in the 80s, I actually had the privilege of being his client. I was in law school at the time, and I was in an accident. Some Allstate driver rear-ended me and caused a lot of damage to my car. And I was talking to him, and he said, how's the claim going? And I said, it's going all right. I said, but Allstate says they only pay $30 an hour for labor on body work, and I'm having the car fixed over at Church Brothers, and they charge $32 an hour, and there's 40 hours of work involved, and so I'm out of pocket $80 on that. And he said something like, that's bullshit. And he filed suit on my behalf against the driver, and as soon as he sent the courtesy copy to the property damage rep, that rep called him and said, tell your brother he can get his car fixed wherever he wants, we'll pay for it. Now, those costs were rather negligible in the big scheme of things, although $80 for a law school student back in the 80s was a lot of money. But the point was that there was an injustice occurring, and Mark didn't like that. And he knew that an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, and decided to take matters in his own hands and fix it. And he did, and I was very grateful. But it showed me that maybe that's an example of, as his little brother, I was the beneficiary of the love, the care, the concern, and protection that he provided not only to his siblings, but as I've learned in practicing with him for the past 24 years, those same traits that he offers to his clients as well, because he treats his clients as if they are our family. Those qualities, the care, protection, concern, are deeply rooted values in his character. And I think it all springs from a very deep sense of justice. Our lives were influenced by the rich diversity in race, ethnicity, culture, religion that we grew up with in Northwest Indiana in a little town called Hammond, which would be in the heart of the Calumet region, which makes Mark and I and Mick and our sister Sue region rats. He's the oldest of the 4 kids. As you can see in that photo, it's obvious. We didn't grow up with the curse of money in the family, but instead with the blessing known only in the love of our parents, who showed us the value of work and of service to others. Mark's views were formed probably mostly from growing up in the influences of the late 60s, including the Vietnam War. And this may not come as a surprise to anyone, but that little guy there, this was 1972, that picture was taken. And it was in 1972 when I was 11 years old and he was 16 going on 17 that summer, that he and I decided to have an argument about politics. Now, I don't know what the hell I knew about politics when I was 11, except that I was a fan of Richard Nixon. And Mark wasn't. He was a McGovern fan, and we argued. We had a 3x3 concrete stoop that was our porch at the house we grew up in, and we argued, and we both walked away knowing that we were right. And I just want you to know, Mark, that I've never acknowledged this, but I think history may have proven that you were in fact right. Perhaps one measurement of achievement might be what your colleagues have to say about you, including colleagues here in the plaintiff's bar and in the defense bar. In 2007, Pete Obremski, who is basically a dean of ITLA to me, Pete was interviewed for an article that Super Lawyer did on Mark as the cover feature that year. And here's what Pete had to say about Mark. And I should say Mark and Pete did co-counsel a case or two over the course of the years, so they knew each other pretty well. Pete said, "He's very aggressive. He comes after you, and it's a battle." He also observed that Mark is a very ethical, straightforward guy. There's no runaround, no monkey business. When he tells you something, you can believe him. There's no underhanded crap going on. He fights hard for his clients, and he's a worthy adversary. That's what Dean Obremski had to say. Now, in 2001 and in 2002, I had the honor, I actually had a front seat row to a battle between these two warriors, Mark Ladendorf and Pete Obremski. We represented a kid who was suffered really bad injuries when a power line fell on him, and at the time, the Henry County REMC was one of Pete's clients, and so Pete defended the case. This was fun. So during the course of the trial, we had 2 trials actually. The first one ended in a mistrial. We went back a year later and actually got a verdict on the case. But during the course of the trial, Pete had his expert witness on the witness stand and made a great case for why they weren't responsible. And then Mark got to cross-examine him and tore him to shreds. And as Mark was walking back to counsel table, Mark had the packet of defense exhibits in his hand, and he just tossed them on the table there in front of the jury and everyone and said loudly enough, "There's your smoking gun, Pete." So this bickering between Pete and Mark went on for the whole trial. And poor Judge Payton, nice guy, very tolerant, patient. Finally, he had his patience worn thin, and he stopped the proceedings in the middle of the trial. The jury's sitting there. And Mark is sitting on the aisle, the center aisle of our table, and Pete's on the center aisle of their table. And then this nice guy named Bob Witham, who's judge over there in Henry County now, is over here, and I'm over here. Judge Payton says, "I'm sorry, Dan, would you trade places with your brother so that you could act as a buffer between him and Pete?" It was not a place I wanted to be, but I did do as the judge asked me, so. In any event, so that's what Pete Obremski had to say about Mark, and as good of friends they were fierce advocates for their clients, enemies in the courtroom, and friends as soon as they walked outside of it. What greater honor could there be if one of your colleagues in the defense bar someone who did medical malpractice work, called you up and said, Mark, I think I have a medical malpractice case of my own, and I would like for you to represent me. Probably no greater honor, would there? And that happened. So in the category of dedication and commitment to his client, here's something maybe a lot of folks don't know. Back in 2011, Mark had a really big case that was getting ready to go to trial in federal court. And he learned about maybe 2 months before that trial that he had a brain tumor. And he was scheduled for surgery 10 days before the trial. Now, Mark has never wanted ever to give up a trial date because, right? You don't give up a trial date. So, we stepped in and we had it under control. But the point was that 10 days after his surgery, while he was still at home recuperating, Mark came to court to show his support, not only for the trial team, but for his client. And that's some pretty good dedication. I probably would have been in my bed with the covers over me, trying to avoid people in life. And I would say that if Mark ever knew fear, he never showed it. Mark, throughout your career, you've stood with those whose dignity had been denied. You've stood with those whose burdens were often more than they could bear. And you've stood with the poor and the powerless and the voiceless, and you made their voices heard. My brother knew from an early age with me that I had a strong sense of justice as well, and that for some time in my youth I thought I would exercise in the priesthood. That didn't last very long, guys. But he seized on the fertile ground that he knew was there and started exposing me to the legal cause for justice, if you will. And doing so, he paved my road for my own journey through this process. And there is a really good likelihood. Actually, I wouldn't be here. If it weren't for his influence in my life, encouraging, not directly encouraging me to go to law school, but that's how it ended up. So, in any event, Mark, with its biblical roots, to those who have hunger, give bread. To those who have bread, give hunger for justice. Today we celebrate my oldest brother for his lifetime of achievement in his hunger for justice. You want to fall?
3 to 5 minutes, huh? That's what he told me. It's like this one. I'm gonna keep it 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. No, it was actually very beautiful, very personal, and everything I would expect of my Uncle Dan. Hi everybody. Good afternoon. It's so good to be here with you all. I'm gonna bring this down a touch. Great seminar so far. It always is. I love this one. Dan Pfeiffer and the ITLA team, the home team, as I like to call it. Great job. James, congratulations. Keep up the good work, young man. And Dad, this is something else, huh? Yeah? Well, cherish it now because, as you have told me so many times, all glory is fleeting. For those of you unfamiliar, that is a quote from the movie Patton. It's one of my dad's favorites. So, by the way, my dad doesn't know what I'm going to say here. He didn't get to have clearance on this one, so you a little nervous? No, I just kidding. Don't be. No, I'm going to keep it pretty PG here because my son, 2-year-old son and 3-year-old niece are here. So now for those that might be looking for a more uncensored roast of Mark Ladendorf, just find me in about 5 hours at the bar at the West End, and we'll get her done. All right, well, this is a very interesting moment in the... It's a very interesting moment in the arc of my life, and in the long and winding road that is my relationship with my dad. Ours is a complex storybook where some chapters are vibrant and even inspiring, and others are more somber, more complicated. For all the influences that I've had on my career in the law to date, including many in this room, the reality is I wouldn't be at this conference with you fine people. I wouldn't probably be a plaintiff's attorney if not for the man sitting there. While it's been some years since we last worked together, he remains the single greatest influence on my career course, though at times I've probably tried to resist that notion, stubborn as I am. At the heart of our relationship is a profound and undying love that has been tested but will never be broken. And that is why I was so honored when my dad asked me to help introduce him, along with Uncle Dan, for the Lifetime Achievement Award from this organization that he has so loved and supported mightily for 4.5 decades. I cut a few paragraphs while you were talking because I knew you were going so long. All right. You know, guys, part of the shared camaraderie and support that we have for one another stems from a shared understanding of how hard this work can be, and despite its many rewards. We know what it's like to manage the stress of our caseloads and our client needs while always wondering where the next case will come from and when. We know the grind it takes to keep cash flows steady. We know that in most cases, good settlements, they don't come easy, now if they ever did. And when it comes to trying cases before juries, we know the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. The point of waxing on our shared experience is to recognize that this work, year in and year out, demands a heck of a lot of us. And if we're not careful, our dance with the jealous mistress, as the practice of law is often called, can mess with our priorities, can disrupt our sense of balance, and can pull us away from our spiritual center. Rather than applaud any of my dad's accomplishments on paper, because, come on, you guys don't want to hear that, or he'll tell you later. No, but impressive settlements, jury verdicts, some wins at the appellate level, building a solo law practice from scratch over 25 years ago and sustaining it to this day. What I've come to appreciate most about my dad, really in the grand scheme of things, is how, despite the constant drumbeat of the professional demands upon him, when he was helping raise a family along with my mom, he gave so much to my sister Hannah, who's here today, our brother Luke, and myself. He was the furthest thing from an absent or even a distant father. He showed up, he gave of himself, his time, his talent, his skill, his spirit. He loved watching us learn and develop. Our mom was amazing, let me be clear. But it's because of our dad that Hannah and I knew all United States capitals by the time we were 6. And probably most of the presidents too at that time. So my dad he wanted us to grow intellectually. He wanted us to grow as whole people beyond that, musically, artistically, athletically. He coached probably approximately 25 combined seasons of sports between basketball, soccer, baseball, and perhaps others, youth baseball, before finally hanging that up and letting us go on to other head coaches. Even when he wasn't coaching, he was one of our biggest fans. We could always count on our dad to show up for our events, from spelling bees to piano and orchestra recitals and school plays. We were also nerds, so. But we never had to doubt that our dad genuinely wanted to be a big part of our lives, and he does and continues to show that to his day, not only with his children, but with his grandchildren, a few of whom are at the table one. Any tribute to my dad would be incomplete without mentioning my brother Luke, who was born with a severe neuromuscular disability, SMA type 1. Among other limitations, he was never able to walk or talk during the course of his life, but whose indomitable spirit blessed us for over 34 years until his journey here on earth ended just last September, peacefully. My dad was Luke's protector and his advocate, especially fighting to ensure that Luke had health insurance benefits year after year when Anthem, as they are so wont to do, often tried to pull the rug on coverage for somebody that disabled. But more than anything, my dad was Luke's friend. If I had $1 for every night that my dad sat bedside with Luke and listened to music with him, watched TV, his favorite pastime, or just rubbed his head or his fragile body, just talked to him. If I had $1 for that, I'd be buying you all drinks tonight. Well, I've never really loved the phrase follow in one's footsteps, as I think it often can fail to account for one's own self-determination and discernment and the effort it takes to get somewhere in life. I can say that there are many professional lessons and traits that my dad instilled in me, as he has with several other members of our brethren and lawyers that I really respect. Jason Reese, Dustin Forgiato, Matt Bigler, Taylor, as you get your start in this profession. One of them is the imperative of hard work. Dad was very clear that if you wanted to work at his firm, don't expect a 9-to-5 job. You can and should have a life outside of work, but you will carry aspects of this job with you outside the office walls. It's just a reality. There's no escaping it. We just got to deal with it. And I don't know if this is an open secret or not, but my dad is finally kinda scaling back a bit in terms of his caseload, as he and all of his age peers in this room and elsewhere deserve to. However, this past Sunday morning, my son, little Miles, and I went to have breakfast at Dad's house. And while we were there, I couldn't help but notice that the coffee table in his living room had a small stack of client medical records and exhibit stickers and a legal pad with a handwritten outline that he was putting together. He didn't say anything about it, but I just had to assume that those were there because Dad was preparing for an upcoming doctor's deposition, even on a beautiful weekend in April, when he's just a few days away from receiving this Lifetime Achievement Award. I wondered how many nearly 69-year-old attorneys, those that are still practicing, would have the drive to do this. That's my dad. Another thing that Dad taught me is the importance of caring about your clients. My uncle spoke very nicely to this point. Or as my dad would put it, giving a damn about people. Obviously, that ethos is part of what sustained him in this profession for so many years. One particular example that's forever etched in my mind was Christmas Eve of 1995 when I was 9 years old. My dad, Mr. Buddy Yosha, who's here with us today, were representing their firm. They were representing a victim, his name Mr. Green, of the Central Soya plant explosion that happened here in Indianapolis the year before that as a result of gross corporate incompetence and neglect. While I had planned to spend that day probably refining my Christmas list and for Santa and watching shows, and my dad had other plans. He took me to purchase hundreds of dollars of groceries and gifts for Mr. Green and his family, and then to deliver them on Christmas Eve to their West Side home. Removed from the security of my white privilege, I still remember the overwhelming sense of gratitude that this humble black family exuded that evening, despite the devastating impact that one negligently caused incident had on their entire lives. And I'll never forget the feeling of holding Mr. Green's fragile hand in prayer that evening, knowing how much of his body had suffered second and third degree burns. I know my dad loved that client like he's loved so many clients, and he worked hard for justice on his behalf. But more personally, I also know he wanted his oldest son to have a glimpse into not just what trial lawyers like you all do, but more generally the struggles of people that, because of maybe my place in life through luck or privilege or whatever, I probably will never know, but I must come to understand to be a better human being and maybe someday a better lawyer. All right, and that connects to the last lesson. There's many others, but I got to wrap this up before he cuts me off. Patience was never my dad's strong suit. The last one, he'll tell you. The last one I want to mention here is just given the audience, and that's being part of something bigger than yourselves, and even your firm, giving back to the profession, supporting a noble mission like we do. That's the very essence of the Indiana Trial Lawyers Association. My dad has imparted that upon associates, upon paralegals, and he'll preach to anybody that'll listen. From Law Pack to the listservs, my dad has been all about the ITLA, serving on its board of directors, the executive committee, and then for a year as president. Those were some of the most important aspects of his career in the law, but not for the titles, but for the opportunity to lead, play a small part in a bigger picture. Like many plaintiffs' attorneys, my dad doesn't suffer from a small ego, but I have spent some time with him in the last few months since he found out he was actually selected for this award. And I can tell you, he is about as humbled as I've ever seen the man. Knowing him as I do, there's no mystery why. You all, his peers, his colleagues, his friends, his fellow warriors in this thing called civil justice in Indiana. My dad's respect sometimes can be hard-earned, but anyone that pours their heart and soul into working on behalf of injured people and does so ethically and does so compassionately, you have his respect. And that's why ITLA will always be his tribe. So if you think that he's gone too hard on the listserv, bitching that more people don't give more money to Law Pact, just, forgive my old man, it's only because he cares so much. Dad, thank you for letting me say these words in your honor. It's not often that a child gets a chance to express such pride for a parent. It's usually the other way around. But today I stand here very proud of your lifetime of achievement. I love you, congratulations, and get on up here.
Lance, Dan, that was beautifully said. Before I turn the mic over to Mark so that he can say a few words to us, I did want to let you know that the award that's being presented to him says on it, "This award honors those individuals who have dedicated a professional lifetime to both upholding the letter and intent of Article 1, Sections 12 and 23 of the Indiana Constitution." And that's Mark Ladendorf for us. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. I'm obviously very taken back. Being a plaintiff's lawyer like we all are, we have so often put ourselves in a different role, and that is a secondary role to the people we represented. We put a secondary role because it wasn't about us, it was about that client. So to get this award, I realized that I am extremely uncomfortable talking to you today, and I'm out of character because I'm not supposed to get awards. I'm supposed to be helping people, but I can't thank all of you enough for being here. It means the world to me, particularly having my brother and my son introduce me. There's so many people I need to thank here today. So I'm going to try to go by my script, which I wrote about 17 times, and realize that you're never going to get it right. So just get up there and be yourself. And to be honest with you, I am very humbled, and I'm honored to be here in front of you all. I honestly can say I gave a lot of my life to Indiana Trial Lawyers Association for a lot of reasons. But one of them is that we're justice, and we're all out there busting our butt and trying to do the right thing so we can help our clients. And so in reality, it's really never about us. It's about our clients. It's about somebody we're trying to help, and can we make a difference in the world? I look over the list of past recipients of this award, and I realize how many excellent lawyers there are, and not just the past recipients, but all the people I've got to meet in my profession during my 44 years of practice. And I think about some of the great human beings I've had the pleasure to know and be part of this organization through them. I remember a fellow by the name of Ed Bailiff from Kokomo, who took me under his wing one time and told me, you're gonna be a leader in this group, and this is what it's gonna be like, and this and that, and I'll never forget that talk. Ed Bailiff's the same guy who underwrote the Comparative Fault Act that we practice currently and for most of my career, which took apart the contributory negligence and the 1% rule, where the defense lawyer would come in and take a little piece of paper and say, this is 1%, you can't give him any money. But Ed had when he put that in perspective to me, it meant a lot. I look back and I think of Charlie Vaughn. I know you all know Charlie. He's another great example of why I wanted to be part of this group. Charlie did the Ryan White case when Ryan had contracted AIDS through a blood transfusion. Charlie went and fought for him and finally got him back in school, and just changed the whole idea of how people can do something in a courtroom, in the law, and how hard he worked in that. I look back, I think of Jeff Cook, who designed basically our listserv, and how many people that has helped in our profession. I look back, I think of people like Hansford Mann, Max Goodwin, and Jim McDonald, and how they fought the electrical utility cases and went ahead and fought in the stray voltage cases, which personally I never understood, but they did it, and they did a great job. I think about my friend Lance Klein and his dad Leon, and what impact Leon had on me when I tried a case in federal court for 5 days against two big defense firms here in town. I think about Kehoe and Winningham, what they've done in our profession. The Hovde family and how great they've been. The Young family, Howard, Drew, John, and Tom. Emily and Mark Geenan, and all they've done for us. Steve Langer is another friend of mine who's always there for me, and we were right on the chairs next to each other, so I got to spend a lot of time with Steve. And so these relationships that we formed over the time not only have an impact on us, but they are part of us now. They're never going to go away. These people are always going to be loved for what they did, not only in my career, but for all of us in our careers. I'd like to say that I'd like to point out a few of my family members that are here today. And of course, my son Lance is here with his wife Cynthia, their son Miles. Lance, of course, is an ITLA member, etc. Just a great guy. Graduate from Notre Dame. He met Cynthia at Notre Dame. They were married in the Basilica. And I couldn't be more proud of Lance and so many things that he's accomplished. My lovely daughter Hannah's here with her daughter and my granddaughter, my only granddaughter, Lily. Hannah, thank you for coming all the way from Nashville, Tennessee to be part of this today. It really meant a lot to me. My brother Mick and his wife Peggy are here. Thank you, Mick. We spent a lot of time together growing up. We did a lot of things, catching frogs and lizards and snakes and everything else. But we did have a lot of fun, and he's my fishing partner, so he's one of my fishing partners. I really like Mick, and Peggy and Mick have been together forever. They have 3 beautiful children also. My brother Dan, who needs no introduction, because he likes to talk, so we'll let him do. But Dan's a former trial lawyer of the year. Dan got that award not by winning a case, but by pushing a bill through the legislature, which is pretty impossible in this state. Did it pretty much single-handedly with the help, of course, ITLA to do the lien statute and get that enacted. I'd like to also introduce my cousins, Dave and Debbie Persick. They live in Fishers. They came all the way here to be part of this. They said they wouldn't miss it. Dave is a former lieutenant colonel in the Army with 2 tours in Vietnam. He was also an Army military advisor at The Hague in the Netherlands before he retired. Dave and I have spent a lot of time talking about wars, talking about life, and to be honest with you, we all grew up in Hammond, and so he was like my oldest cousin who I was like, man, this guy's done everything. And but he's always been a great friend. He's a great golfer and just a great human being. I get to cut a few people out here because they didn't show, so whatever. There's three important ladies here today who were part of my career, and they all have played respective roles that helped develop my practice. Julie Weiler's here. Julie was my right hand in so many ways. She was my office administrator, paralegal, accountant, tax expert, and just a damn good friend. She was always there for me throughout our many years together. Jane Neutzel also is here, who was my paralegal and did all the dirty work. When we had to do something like I hated dealing with liens. I personally hated it. Jane, would you please do the lien piece? Or please do it. You know, get it going for me. And Brenda Overton, also my paralegal, who was instrumental in expanding my horizons in law by getting me involved with the motorcycle community, even though I had to give up motorcycle riding because I damn near killed myself about 3 times. You can be good at some things, but some things you're not good at, and I learned quickly after I spent a couple days in the hospital that I should never ride a motorcycle again. So these 3 people had a big influence on my life. One of my dear friends who's here and came here from work, I was in the Big Brothers program from 1983 for 10 years, and then I continued my relationship with Jamie Pfeiffer, who's here. Jamie and I spent a lot of time together. He's one of my best buddies. He's just a good guy. We spent some time recently fishing for salmon in one of the rivers here in Michigan. I wanted him here today, and I'm so glad he could make it. Mitch and Jan Clark are here. Jan is my current paralegal. Mitch is my buddy and a good friend, and thank you for being here. My law firm, Dustin, Taylor, and Matt are here. I want to thank you guys for everything you've done to be here today. I think I've covered everyone, but I got a couple people I have to mention because I guess it's my day in court. So, Louis Buddy Yosha's here. I can't tell you the influence this man had in my career. And so many of us disciples of the Yosha School are here. Lance Klein is here, of course. He was, he and I graduated the same day from law school and all that good stuff. But Buddy had a great impact on so many of us. And you gave us the chance and you gave us the opportunity to take a case. And yeah, some of the cases were very bad you gave me, I'll tell you. Very bad. And that's why I got my butt kicked a few times. And but anyhow, you learn. But the one thing I did learn from Buddy and the whole group of the people I worked with is, you got to work hard. I mean, this is not something that comes naturally. You got to bust butt. You got to be. And how many nights did we all stay up in our bedrooms writing an outline or something of that nature? Well, Buddy was really one of the most influential people in my legal career. I'd like to also thank Leon Klein, Lance's dad. I tried my first big case with him years ago, I think in 1981, in federal court, and I'll never forget the Judge Dillon, who was, he says to me after, I guess I got a little cocky, and I said, Leon, so we're in the final settlement part where the Judge Dillon wants to talk money. And so I'm all brash and, all right, I'm ready to go. And I get up and I started talking about, Judge, we should be doing this, and this is why this case is worth, $500,000 and that. And Judge Dillon looks at me and goes, Mr. Ladendorf, you write a nice brief and you took your witnesses and did a good job on them. He goes, but what's the settlement time? And as far as I know, you don't have any money in this case. And he basically told me to shut up. And of course we learn. So I'd like to also mention Jim McDonald. You might not know this, but Jim McDonald was the author of the transition from when Mickey Wilson was retiring and wrote this beautiful document, kind of Magna Carta type thing when we decided that Jason Bell was going to take the place. That was very. I mean, it was important at that time. Jim also inspired me to sing a song at a seminar when he received the Lifetime Achievement Award. I played guitar and I was on film and all that, but that was during COVID, so I never got to perform it in front of all of you. If you would like a private concert, just let me know. I want to thank Don Ward, too, because he and I share something in common in that we both raised children who needed special care, special needs. Don wrote me a letter after my Luke died, and wrote me a letter and sent me a check to for for the funeral or whatever. I don't quite remember, but I know he wrote me a check. But wrote this beautiful letter to me, and I kept it, and I was like, this is what our group is all about. It's all about giving back. And finally, Jason Bell, thank you, Jason, for stepping up in my spot when I had brain surgery and had to miss a whole bunch of things going on. Jason came in and took over and did just a hell of a job in my behalf. All right, that's the personal stuff. Let me get to my final little speech part here. I'd like to share some personal insights into my life of nearly 69 years with some thoughts that might pertain to many of us. In many ways, being a plaintiff's trial lawyer has been a grind, a passage of time on a legal treadmill with no stop button on the machine. We won, we lost cases. We've been to the courts, we've been into the courtroom, we've been in the Court of Appeals. Sometimes we're admonished by a judge. Sometimes we might have said the wrong things. We pulled rabbits out of our hat by getting a nice verdict. And of course, we've heard those dreadful words on a tough liability case, we, the jury, find for the defendant. It's been part of our life. Sleepless nights, countless outlines, long evenings of research, reviewing instructions, waking up wondering, did we forget to cross that T and dot that I, which were so important because of the intricacies of our work. The law has been a good friend to us, but it's also, we've paid a cost. We've paid a great cost to do what we did. We gave all we had to be a good lawyer. Perhaps I could have been a better father, a better brother, a better husband, and a better friend. It is only in this late stage of my career that I can look back and say in some respects I've gave my whole damn life to the law. But in another way, I'm very proud I did it, and I'm very proud I did it with you all, because this is a very important organization. It's what I believed in all my life. It's why I still write checks to candidates in this state who are going to lose the election that I give them money to. So if this sounds in any way like a catharsis, please accept that this is only because I had a great passion for this organization and a great passion for what we do in life. And I want to thank you all for being part of it. In the end, I gave no more to this profession than any of you who are here today. The many men and women who've been here to be part of this. We work to slay the corporate giant. We work against insurance companies who deny claims for no reason at all. We work in the halls of government to try to beat some of the bad bills that come out every year. We battle and we continue the battle in our quest to help the citizens of our state. It's been said that those who are given much, much is expected in return. This means doing more service to the society, to help those less fortunate, sometimes not taking a fee, sometimes taking 5% just so you can pay your expenses. Sometimes it means just being a good person and putting your heart in front of everything else. So, I look back and I've had so many great memories with all of you. You've all been very instrumental to me. I'd like to just point out that Steve Langer has been a great help to me in so many ways in the time I was a president. And I'd also like to mention Bob Johnson for all he's doing in the legislature now. It's in the group that works with Bob. I mean, this is sometimes a very thankless job to go down to the legislature and try to convince anyone to even talk to you. But you all have put a lot of effort into this to do it. So the bottom line here is that this award is not about me. I'm a recipient only in name. This award is about each and every one of you. It is about the work we do in the presentations at these seminars. It's about the Women's Caucus and the continued fight for women's rights. It's about the amicus committee and those volunteering to write briefs on behalf of a client. That's not on behalf of a person who's not even their client. It's about a golf tournament and the camaraderie shared by those who participate. It's about the Judicial Nominating Commission and the time that everybody has put in to help vet potential candidates and also the people who actually served in the Judicial Nomination Committee. This is about great individuals and the countless hours we put in without pay to strive for one thing, and that's justice. So in the end, my friends, this award is about you and all of us together. Finally, I would be remiss if I failed to mention the fact that I was a father for 34 years to my son, Luke. He never walked or talked in his life. He was my buddy. He is a remarkable young man who really fought the odds to live as long as he did with a deathly disease, spinal muscular atrophy. His siblings, Lance and Hannah, did so much to keep things together in the family. My ex-wife and lovely person, Debbie, was the one who really centered the journey to get Luke through those years. It's been a very special trip along the way. I have to bring him up because I think that in the long run, he made me a better person. He made me a better person, and I'm very proud of him and all the people who participated in his life. So I was thinking about the ending and how to close the speech, and I thought about that. I thought about Lou Gehrig and in the movie Pride of the Yankees. He's diagnosed with ALS. I don't even think they knew what ALS was at that time. And he's diagnosed, and he gets in the last game, or he doesn't play in the last game, but they're giving him an award, and he goes out and gets the mic and looks at everybody. He tells the crowd in a capacity-filled stadium, "Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth." Ladies and gentlemen, I do too right now. Thank you so much.